I did hear that they were doing it, and I got asked to put something on tape, and I thought, Lord of the Rings, yes, well, this is going to be a complete a cluster, whatever it is. And I thought, never mind, I haven't been to New Zealand. Go there, take a part for a month, look around, and walk away because this is never going to happen.
Whatever happens, stay with me. I'll look after you.
This is never going to happen. He has no idea what happens when you make a big movie.
Right now! Right now! Right! Right to ruin and the world ending!
I spent the first 2 weeks, every morning and every afternoon, sitting in a different department, just to convince myself that these kids had not an idea. And I slowly got more and more depressed because in every department, there was a level of enthusiasm that is found nowhere else in the world, and excellence that you'd only expect to find in the great film capitals of the world. But I still had a way out. What is the director? How does he handle his crew and his cast? So I went and watched Peter directing for a scene or two.
You were investing a lot of your time.
Yes. Yes, I mean, it's going to be 8 years, but...
He had the answers to everything. He was enthusiastic. His crew loved him. His way of dealing with his cast was marvelous. And I realized and then 2 weeks into production, we had a press conference. And everybody was there, you know, Lord of the Rings, you know, in New Zealand, big production. This is going to be another screw up, isn't it? And all that sort of thing. And I am proud to say that I was the first person who got up and said, ladies and gentlemen of the press, revise your expectations upwards. 3 predictions. 1, this film that we're doing now is going to outgross the new Star Wars, at which point Peter Jackson buries his head in his hands.
I don't like sand.
2, these films, when they come out, are going to be regarded as the most remarkable and successful films of the decade.
And the Oscar goes to... It's a clean sweep. The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, Barry M. Osborne, Peter Jackson, and Fran Walsh producers.
And in 20, 25 years' time, when you look back, you will recognize them as being a masterpiece of filmmaking.
idea what it was going to look like. I had no idea until I saw the film. Works very well.
It's very bizarre, isn't it? It's a good one.
So he'd be dressed as Sam with a mask of my face. So it was like I was playing a miniature version of myself who was better than me at chess.
I remember that when we did the wide shot, we were really moving down that river. And Kieran, we're doing the first take, and Kieran's going, Vito, don't worry about me. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm trying to talk without moving my lips, you know, and he goes, well, if we flip over, I said, we're not going to flip over. And he goes, if we flip over, just save yourself. I can't swim. I said, what?
It was really horribly sad.
So just for anyone,
for
anyone listening or watching, what we're talking about here is the fact that Stuart Townsend, who was for a while going to be playing Aragorn, had at that point left the project, and they told the four hobbits who were on their first day and the first day at work. None of us knew what was going on. Sean almost knew before it had happened.
Yeah. We're now shooting the film. We couldn't stop shooting it, and we only had a very limited number of days that we could shoot without the character of Aragorn.
I got a phone call at home saying, do you want to get on a plane tomorrow to go to New Zealand? And I said, for what? And then they said, you know, the Lord of the Rings.
Are they finished?
The irony is that the person that had to be the most accomplished swordsman in the film, which was Viggo Mortensen playing Aragorn, Viggo didn't get cast in the movie until we were a few days into shooting the film. So he didn't have any of the advantage of this training with Bob, and he'd never used a sword before. So Viggo arrives in New Zealand, he gets off the plane, and the Weathertop fight scene is like the first thing he's going to shoot. Up the brow of the hill, and you're flooding over here, and Aragorn here, Viggo, gets to fight you single-handedly, one versus 100.
Richard made this impassioned speech, you know, for the sake of authenticity, this and that. But it was about bloodlust, about...
Your killing machines move forward with the intention that you're going to kill. So keep it fluid, not stilted. Give it the best you can, thank you.
And so he was just, there is no mercy, there is no... And these guys, you could see them shaking with anticipation, and I looked over at Pete, and then I looked over at the stunt coordinator, who was just going like that, who was feeling the same as I, which was, these guys didn't need any more, you know, encouragement to, like, you know, beat the snot out of me. I was like, I'm not gonna...
An imposing gentleman even when he's not in his prosthetics.
Strike a pose and let's get with it.
And stay on it. Stay like
And then I can hear the Iroquois just like this with the pom-poms cheering me on.
Goodness.
Ow! Go see you! Go Lex! Idiot!
Good job. Just a bit of...
Most times that you're with Viggo, something amazing is not too far behind. He's like an old-fashioned movie star in my eyes, you know? Very gentlemanly and very polite and...
You can see the wildness in his eyes. He goes slightly mental. Something kind of clicks.
And then he just rugby tackled me for some reason, you know, really like, bang! So I wondered what would hit me, you know, and what are you doing, you know?
Fishing and swimming and stuff like that.
Guess who gets the trout? Aragorn. Me? No. Aragorn. 3.
There were sort of bottles of wine and people, you know, we were just sitting around the campfire and chatting and laughing and joking.
And then watched the sun go down, and Viggo built an amazing campfire.
Ended up being king.
Takia pakia, wai takia, kaki no neo.
And then in one of the takes, they turn around and I'm like, hey! And Viggo grabs me and kisses me hard in the mouth. I mean, like, I've never been kissed from man or woman. And by God, I saw stars.
Did you see what they did? Franny.
You don't know about this?
No. You never heard this? No.
I think, I'm not saying, I think I felt tongue.
I think you opened your mouth. I wasn't watching.
No, he did.
He did.
I can't believe that. Dirty buggers.
And I'd been secretly wanting to do that with Billy, which is a whole nother. Maybe we shouldn't talk about that.
I was kind of jealous because I remember the first party we kissed each other, remember?
Yeah.
Remember?
I've kissed most of the boys.
You have?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, Billy Boyd gets himself about.
I don't mind.
I know for a fact
I'll kiss anybody.
that he's kissed 5 members of the Fellowship.
Well, mine's pointing up and yours is pointing down.
Yeah, but yours is a darker colour, you see.
But yours seems to be slightly thinner but longer.
Yeah, but yours is, well, yeah, it is longer.
Maybe
there's a
come
smell
back next year and
peanuts off of yours.
see if it gets a little bit big. Just
Nothing. It was just.
it's a scene.
Just working on
scene with the
Isengard.
Scene with the hobbits where
John was wearing a prosthetic that limited his vision to this because he had, prosthetic skin, and his eyes were swollen because he was allergic to the prosthetic, so they were slightly shut. And he had no kind of,
I thought, get in, month's work, see the country, get paid, go home. And then when they came back and said, we want you for Gimli, I thought, what the hell?
John Rhys Davies took us to a restaurant, and it was when we'd only just started to get to know John, and we sat down at this huge long table, and he said, I think I will order the food for tonight. And we said, oh, okay, on you go, John, and we were all having a conversation, and the waitress came over. And John ordered, food that would probably have fed maybe 35, 40 people, and there were about 12 of us, He just said, we'll have 9 lobster and 15 shrimp and 12 red snapper, 15 filet mignons and some grilled mushrooms. I'll have 12 onions and wild boar.
I'm kind of glad on this movie that I got to direct it and I didn't have to play a hobbit, because those guys had a fairly arduous time of it. They had to get up at some unearthly hour.
How lucky are we to be in New Zealand to see this? That's half of why this movie is so amazing. This kind of stuff, every day. My day would start within the 5 o'clock hour, every day, for the most part. It's sometimes 4:30. That was lovely. The Hobbits would always start early because we had the prosthetics in the morning. Our makeup took mostly about 2 hours.
Glue was painted to the bottom of your feet. Then you would slide into these prosthetic feet. They would then hair dry glue around the seams of your feet and paint them with airbrushes and paintbrushes.
Standing up at 5 in the morning. And the whole time we're begging to sit down, but they don't let us.
Of course, the biggest crime I could commit as a director was to have their feet glued on, but then because of the angles I was shooting that day, to somehow not see the feet. Sean Astin in particular kept a running tally, and by the time he was finished a 274-day shoot, he could tell me exactly how many days he'd had his feet glued on and they weren't photographed.
50 separate days. We got to 50 that we had the feet applied when they weren't actually even seen on camera.
And our feet were so cold, we just couldn't feel anything. Meanwhile, you've got Pete Jackson hiding underneath the little trailer, giggling, because he's got his 4 hobbits and Aragorn going through this water that stinks, and we're falling over, and Billy fell flat on his back, and it was a rough a rough day, and I remember we all went to the pub that night and were drinking lots of kind of hearty drinks like whiskey and mulled wine and all that kind of stuff. Because
I remember once, me and Dom were doing this thing, just bored, you know, we're out on location. And he says, how fast do you think you could touch every table in this canteen? It's just me and him. And I was like, I reckon I could do it faster than you anyway.
the game that Billy played more than anything was to watch me run around and touch the tables and then to forget to have started this stopwatch and just watch me get more tired, you know, and the time's going longer.
When I was getting ready to go out, they said, when you get to Heathrow, you'll be travelling with someone called Orlando Bloom.
I just left my family behind and my friends and my life, and I was like feeling a little bit teary, you know, at the idea of leaving everything behind and my dog and everything. And
I see this guy, you know, and I thought, he looks elf-like.
And this wee fella walked over and he said,
you wouldn't be Orlando Bloom, would you? He said, Billy!
And I was like, oh my God, you're a hobbit. And we just had this huge embrace.
Mary. Mary, it's me. It's Pippin.
I knew you'd find me.
Yes.
Are you going to leave me?
No, Mary. I'm going to look after you.
Okay, let's back.
Wait a minute, Sean, that's my memory as well. And in one hand you had a Bunsen burner.
And a sleeping bag you were waving around with the other.
The other one had the paddle from ping pong, table tennis paddle.
All I was doing was pointing to the pilot
But Sean, do you not think that both of those helicopter pilots might have been in cahoots with each other on a radio? That you might not have needed to.
It was brilliant, and I could see
Not
the
all of us grew up with hooliganism and the instinct on how to flee. Some of us have to train for it. And you and Elijah, you two and Elijah, thought it was hilarious. So they were putting the helicopter skid on the edge of a rock. The other skid floating. Right? Floating. Like if they would have turned the power, it would have dropped. So it's floating there so that we can get in. And we climb in, and you guys are laughing and laughing. Now, they had at least 2, I think 3 helicopters. Okay. So we're getting the 3 of you guys are chattering away on the thing. Now, there's no like air traffic control tower. Okay, there's just what they call VRF, visual flight. What is it? VFR, visual flight rules. Okay, and the clouds are coming in, and you guys are jaw jacking. And now, if you have been.
Sean absolutely did not want to fly and said, "Look, I'll take the ski lift up, and then I'll walk the rest of the way."
We shot there for 2 or 3 days, and our day would begin with everybody flying in the helicopters. And as we flew over at 7:30 in the morning, we'd look down, and there'd be this tiny black speck climbing the cliff. It was almost like a cliff face, and it was Sean Bean dressed up as Boromir, like a human fly on the wall, clambering up this mountainside all by himself to sort of get to the location, because he didn't want to go there and shop. He had like 2 hours of climbing to do.
Well, they used to see me from the helicopter, you know, and I was sweating at the end. It was like a real adventure getting over that sort of mountain to get to the set. But I did, you know, I preferred.
There's 13,000 rings in one of these suits when it's finished, and it takes approximately 3 days to make up one.
Putting together plastic rings, and I love it. Absolutely mad as a meat axe, but I love it.
For me, it's been about 5 months of non-stop.
Welcome to the bubble.
Welcome to the bubble.
This has been our home for what, the last year?
2 years.
No, we only had the bubble for about a year.
And the hostage.
Oh, and the hostage, yes, we can't forget the hostage. He still hasn't coughed up his secrets.
This is 5 million rings that we've put together
which is 10 kilometres worth of chain mail if every ring was stood on its edge.
The history of it, because it is very interesting. I mean, people don't realise really how close this film came to not happening at all. A more definitive budget of what it was going to spend, and it was going to, at that point, these two movies were going to cost about 130, 140 million to make. Because Harvey had spent 20 million, and he wasn't able just to kill it. He was now going to have to find someone else to do his movie, so he could at least get his investment back. And so Harvey said, okay, there's two conditions. One, it's got to be the two films. Somebody's got to agree to do two films, because I'm offering to do one, so somebody's got to agree to the two. The second condition is, if somebody wants to do it, they've got to write me, they've got 4 weeks from now to write me a $20 million check. So we were now faced with the job of having to go to LA, to Hollywood, and try and convince somebody to write Harvey a $20 million check and finance 2 Lord of the Rings movies. So we tape in, and he plays it. I mean, he just sits there completely silently, just watches it, and we're just nervous. We can't stand it. We're in the same room as he is, and he's just watching for 36 minutes. And as the tape comes to an end, he says, I don't get it. And I thought, oh, okay. And he turns and he says, I don't get it. Why would you be wanting to do 2 Lord of the Rings films? It's 3 books, isn't it? Shouldn't it be 3 films? and I thought, what's he saying here? What's he saying here? And he said, look, we're interested, but we're basically interested in 3 movies. And that was that.
I hope you got up and went over and kissed him.
Well, it's really, a tribute to New Line Cinema, to Michael Lynn and Bob Shaye, because they've taken a gamble that I think will probably go down in history as one of the all-time Hollywood gambles, because nobody has ever said we'll pay for 3 films, 3 big budget, expensive, complicated films. We'll shoot them all together before we release the first one, because we don't even know if the first one's going to succeed or not at the box office. I mean,
what you have achieved is sheer magic, all of you, and I think that is the operative word, all of you. You are the greatest crew I've ever known.
I'm astonished when I come back in year 4 now that I still find the same passion and dedication and love for what we do here in New Zealand. Because I'll tell you what, you don't find it in LA. Well, it's here.
Significant day for him, but also truly significant for everybody else.
Okay, good, we should check it.
Thank you.
Done?
That's Vigo's last shot, everybody.
So what?
Lovely last shot.
Thank you. Man, I'll never forget it. It's imprinted upon my memory for the rest of my life. Burst into tears, and he just said thank you over and over again. Oh,
That's good.
Thank you. It's been so amazing, Peter.
You've been so amazing. You've been great. Thank you very, very much.
Righto, everybody.